I thought I was doing a good thing. I didn't meddle, I didn't demand anything. I just came to support my brother. Not as a hero. I came as a sister. As a human being. Like family. But, as they say, not all relatives are family and not all family are people. When I arrived at the train station, I had a bag in my hand with his gift. Small but significant, a map with the route of their grandfather. A real battle captain who had been through 3 wars. I knew it was important to Matt. He grew up listening to the same fireside stories I did. We'd both listened to them until Mom turned out the lights. Just then, apparently, someone decided that the memory of one grandfather was divided into shares, and my share was to be silent. I wasn't expecting fanfare. I didn't expect a red carpet. But when I got to the registration desk for the ceremony, I just wasn't on the list. Just like that. Not a name, not a line. The girl in uniform smiled, politely of course, but her eyes looked like she was looking through me. Like, "You must have the wrong address, ma'am." "Sophia Hayes," I repeated. "Captain Matt Hayes' sister. He's my brother." "I'm sorry. You're not on the list," she said. At first I thought maybe it was a technical error. Maybe they forgot to add you. But when I saw my own mother walk by wearing a pearl necklace, a perfectly pressed suit, not even a glance in my direction, I realized. This is not a mistake. It's an intention. She walked up to the same girl and said clearly, "This guest is not on the approved list. A family decision. That's it. Guest. Not a daughter. Not a sister. Not even just a woman visiting from out of state for family." I stood there like a fool. Like I wasn't off the list, I was out of my life. And I didn't cry. I didn't make a scene. I just, stood there. Absorbed it. Because it wasn't the first time. The first time I didn't get a call after my surgery. The second was when my dad signed the house over to Matt alone, citing logistics. And now it was the third. And the third time it didn't hurt anymore. It was like it was petrified. I stepped back to the glass wall where I could see the room. People came in pairs, smiling, shaking hands. One of the guests approached my mother and asked, "Isn't your daughter here?" "She's busy," my mother said without even blinking. "She has her own life." Of course she does. I have my own life. My loneliness. My rehab. My rejection of holidays where you're told not to ruin the moment. I didn't leave right away. I stood and watched my brother take the stage. In dress uniform, back straight, chin high. He was announced, Captain Matt Hayes in honor of 30 years of service. Applause. Photo. Flowers. I was somewhere in the background. Not that I wanted to shine. I just wanted one of them to look in my direction. Just a glimpse. But they looked right through me. Like the dust on an old window. It's there, but it doesn't seem to bother me. When the ceremony was over, I went to a side street. Where there were no cars. Where no one came out with glasses and congratulations. And there I put the box with the card on a bench and just sat next to it. The wind was cool. Not brutal but honest. Not like my family. I walked back to the hotel like a beaten dog. Only without the collar. Not because I lost, because they wouldn't even let me on the field. And you know what the worst part is? I didn't want to triumph. I didn't want to stand next to him on the stage and get applause. I just wanted my family to remember us as a we, instead of a he's our hero and she's our silent hero. In the room, I laid out my things in a kind of machine-like fashion. I took off my jacket, which made me feel like I was back at the parent-teacher conference, where no one cares how you live, as long as you sit quietly. I looked at the card. The one I wanted to give you. The paper was yellowed, but it was clear. Handwritten. Dated. With signatures. A memory that no one wants to see now. And then while I was looking at it, it hit me. Not tears, anger. Cold, dry anger. When you've been ignored for so long, you stop hoping someone will ever apologize. But you start to think, what am I waiting for? And it gets stronger. And it gets louder than any praise that you're not going to get anyway. I remember taking care of my dad when he broke his leg. How my mom had gone to Florida to get some air. And I warmed soups, scrubbed floors, washed his Navy uniform because he was so used to it. He used to say thank you. And then he forgot. Crossed it out. Or pretended it was just a matter of course. And your brother? Matt. Oh well. I remember him having stage fright. Back in the day. When we were learning the Christmas carol in church. He was standing there, pale, hands shaking. I walked over, stood next to him, put my hand on his shoulder and just sang louder. I pulled him out at that concert. And now he pulled me off the list. And at that moment I didn't start thinking, maybe they just didn't know how to talk to me. No. I just realized if they didn't know, that's their choice. And if they did, even more so. The next morning I showed up at my parents' house. No call. No warning. My mother opened the door with a face like I'd brought a tax audit. "You're back, aren't you?" she asked. "I never left," I replied. I set the card on the dresser. In plain sight. "It's Grandpa's. It's Matt's. You can give it to him. Or keep it. Or throw it away. It's not my problem anymore." And I walked out the door. There was no speech. There was no drama. Just footsteps down a hallway that smelled of incense and old furniture, and something that used to be called home. I was almost out the wicket when I heard behind me, "Sophia." My father's voice. Not an ounce of warmth. As if he wasn't calling me but checking to see if I was still breathing. I turned around. He was standing on the doorstep, leaning on his cane, but with the same face he used to greet his grandchildren in the photograph, stony, formal, as if even his family pride was issued through the military enlistment office. "You knew you shouldn't have come, didn't you?" he said. "And you knew I was coming anyway," I replied. He nodded. He didn't say anything. Everything that needed to be said had been said. On the train I sat at the window and watched the station slowly recede backward. Empty palms in my hands. Even the bag with the map I'd left with them in the hallway. Let them decide what to do with it. I don't have to prove anything anymore. You know the moment when you finally let go? Not when you yell. Not when you walk away with a grudge. It's when it's suddenly quiet inside. No pricks. No expectations. Just flat. Like water in a glass. There was a storm, now it's calm. I don't know if he'll ever call. Or write. Maybe never. Maybe not until he realizes that memories aren't about certificates and parades, but about the people who were there for you when you fell. And I was. Even when they didn't say thank you. Even when they pretended I didn't exist. And now I am. Even when they don't want me to be. Because there are some things you can't cross off. I don't need their forgiveness. It chose me. And damn it, it was the best choice I've made in the last 10 years. And I may not have been on the list. I may not have been called. I may not have been noticed. But it's their loss. Not mine. What happened next changed everything. You don't want to miss how it unfolded. Have you ever felt like you were being pushed out of your own family? Like you came uninvited to a party you once helped organize? That's the feeling I woke up with the next morning. The room was quiet, but it wasn't the kind of quiet that gives you peace. It was the kind of silence where you hear everything. Every ignore, every unanswered call, every glance that slipped past. I stared at the wall and thought, maybe I really did come for nothing. And then no, I didn't come for nothing. I'm just the only one who didn't come for recognition, but out of respect. And they didn't even say thank you. I thought I'd leave nicely. Like a well-mannered grown woman, not like a hurt girl. I put my hair in a bun, put on a coat, ordered a small cake with the inscription, "Pride of the family. For real." And she went to her parents' house. Just to say goodbye. No drama. Almost. When I walked in, my mom wasn't even surprised. It was like she knew I wouldn't give up the first time. "We're having company in half an hour. I hope you won't be long," she said without even looking at me. No. I just came by to say goodbye. Then come in quickly. Someone else would have turned and left. But I'd grown up among these walls. I knew all too well where resentment lurked. I went into the kitchen, put the box on the table. My father was there drinking coffee, silent. He looked at me as if I'd brought the electric bill. "You're early," he threw in. "I'm actually leaving. Figured I'd say it in person." "Well," he took a sip. "The decision is yours." That's it. Not a question about how I got here. Not a word about last night. Just the ever-present, you chose it. I chose when you didn't say anything for years and then accused me of leaving without saying goodbye. I walked toward the exit, but I stopped in the hall. There was a picture on the wall. A family photo. An old one. Me and Matt are still teenagers. Sitting by the shore barefoot. I'm holding a map, the same one that's now gathering dust in their hallway. Back then I thought we were like those ships, sailing side by side, albeit on different courses. But who knew that one of us would decide that the other was ballast? You know, I said aloud, you could have at least pretended to need me. Mother came up behind me, her hands on her chest. We're not pretending. We're just not lying. No. You've just learned how to erase people from your memory. She didn't say anything. She just turned away. She always does. I left. And for the first time without guilt. I walked slowly down the street. People were hurrying past to cafes, to stores, to go about their business. And I was in slow motion. Like a man who had just stepped out of his own life. But not because of tragedy. It's because of clarity. I was about to turn onto the next street when I heard someone calling my name. I turned around. Emily, my cousin. All branded glasses, with that same strange smile you wave at politicians who aren't your friends. Sophia? I didn't expect to see you. I'm sure you're not the only one, I said, not slowing down. Listen, I wanted to tell you about the list. It wasn't my call. It just went through the committee. They were looking at who was going to be. Oh, don't worry, I interrupted. It was very family-oriented, clear, organized. No extra faces. She faltered, like she didn't know whether to apologize or defend herself. It's just. She exhaled. Everyone thought you weren't coming, that you were already far away. I've been away ever since I realized that love in this family is handed out on a list. And my name was somewhere between the pizza delivery guy and the neighbor with the noisy TV. Emily blushed. She wanted to say something, but she couldn't. You know, I looked her straight in the eye. You were the only person I ever helped unconditionally. Remember college? The letter of recommendation? A presentation 3 courses ahead of time? She nodded as if she remembered all that. And at that moment she tried to hide inside her designer bag. I thought it was called support at the time. Now I see that you call it use it when you need it, forget it the next time. I turned around and walked on, leaving her standing in the middle of the street, in her perfect coat but empty-eyed. And as I walked it hit me. Wave after wave. It wasn't resentment. It was clarity. I mean, they weren't even trying to save face. This whole thing, the silence, the ignoring, the no-name lists was deliberate. Like a plan. I was crossed off in advance. Cold. Gently. Like a family will. And that's when I realized I owed no one else anything. No explanations. No visits. No anchor gifts. If they don't see the value in me, then it's time to stop explaining where it is. By the time I reached the waterfront, the wind had picked up. The waves pounded against the concrete wall, as if someone was beating outside to be heard. It was there that I saw him, Matt. He was standing with his back to me, talking to some man in uniform, apparently a coworker or commander. I moved closer. Not because I wanted a scene. Because I didn't want to play invisible anymore. Nice uniform, I said. It's a shame that underneath it they forgot who helped you become what you became. He turned around. His eyes narrowed. He hadn't expected it. Sophia. Don't bother. I know you're not happy. It's official. He sent his companion to the car, left alone. He came over. I didn't know you were coming. Of course you didn't. And I wasn't on the list by accident. It was my mom. She said that you didn't want to be a part of things. That you were distant. Mom said it. And you said it again. Did you feel comfortable thinking that? He looked away. I didn't mean for it to happen. It was just a quick turnaround. Fast? Matt, this isn't a satellite launch. It's your sister standing in the rain while you gave your speech. And didn't even look back. He didn't say anything. And that silence said more than any excuse. I brought you a present. Grandpa's card. But I think it'll be more comfortable in my closet than in a house where they make lists for keepsakes too. He sighed heavily. I'm sorry. But I don't know how to fix it. Start by stopping being silent when you need to speak. And speaking when you feel like it, not when it's convenient for you. I turned around. And yes, thank you for the inspiration. You taught me one important thing. How to look important without being human. I walked away without looking back. And he let him stand there. Let him think about what it's like to have a family walk past you like you're a ghost that doesn't fit in. I went back to the hotel slowly. No regrets. No rush. But I felt like I'd taken something heavy off me. As if I'd thrown off a coat that didn't keep me warm but just pressed on my shoulders. In my room I sat by the window. Opposite was the cafe where I think I had once had coffee with my mother. She could still smile then. Or pretended to. It didn't matter. I looked there and thought, what if I were different? Silent. Comfortable. Accepting. Would I be closer to them? Or would I just be another piece on the family shelf? My phone was silent. Not one message. No, I'm sorry. No, where are you? It's all according to plan. But I realized the most important thing. It wasn't my fault. I'm not the reason they're cold. I'm just the first one who stopped pretending everything was normal. And that's what you get expelled for in these families. No trial. No letters. No words. I looked at the tickets. I had another day. I could stay. Knock. Try. But no. No more. This chapter is closed. Not because I'm tired. It's because I've chosen me. When you're a grown woman, you have the right to say, no more. Even if it's a family. Especially if it's family. I got up, I packed my things. And before I left, I said out loud to myself, no more guilt. Just clarity. On the way to the train station, I noticed a family. An ordinary one. The man was carrying a suitcase, the woman was hugging a teenager, who mumbled something but didn't break free. They were laughing. Not loud. Quiet. Real. I looked at them and caught myself in a strange thought. Not envy but surprise. As if something that should be the norm had become the exception in my life. And then I realized I'd just been looking at love through a scope for too long. As a reward to be earned. Not as something that's given for nothing. For what you are. And now that I was leaving, I didn't feel like fighting anymore. I didn't even want to explain. I was no longer the girl who waits to be called. I was a woman who knows that sometimes the warmest place is not at home, but where you are respected. I'm not defeated. I'm awake. And this is more than a victory. It's a climax. Everything you've been waiting for is right here. Stay to see the hero put everyone in their place. I was sitting on the train. It was about to move and there was only one thought in me. This is it. Not dramatic, not hysterical. Just like a comma at the end of a long list. Like when you realize you're no longer respected. Or even hidden. And then there's a knock on the glass. 1, 2. I turned around. Matt. In uniform. He's standing on the platform. Breathing hard. Like he was catching up to a train he'd let go. I slowly rolled down the window. Sophia, he breathed out. Wait. Don't go. I stared at him, silent. Not a single sentence in my head. Everything had already been said. Or not said, and that was worse. I need to talk, he added. You should have talked yesterday, I said. Or the day before yesterday. Or 3 years ago. Not now when I'm on my way out. He looked away, then back at me. You're right. I fucked it all up. I know that. I'm not making excuses. I just want you to know that you were on the list. I wrote it myself. By hand. Mom deleted it. I didn't even realize it. And when I did, it was too late. I pressed my lips together. Not out of anger. Just because it's weird to hear the truth when you've given up hope. You could have said it at the ceremony. You could have just looked at me. I was scared. Not for me. For everyone judging me again. Mom, the guests, the army brass. And now. He exhaled. Right now I just want my sister back. Not the title. Not the world. You. He pulled a letter from his inside pocket. A real one. Signed. This is the program for the banquet. Here's the speech. There's a paragraph. Right before the main toasts. You'll see I was preparing to say your name. But I didn't. 'Cause I chickened out. I took the paper. I read it. I didn't say anything. 'Cause it was all too much. Too late. Too true. Too sudden. He smiled suddenly, tentatively. Do you want to know what I'll say tonight if you come over? I didn't answer. He took a step back, just enough so his words wouldn't be a pressure. I'll say, welcome, Admiral Hayes. Because that's what I always called you when I was little. And that's what I should have called you in front of everyone. Because you're my compass. Even if I'm on the wrong course. The train jerked. He held out his hand. Please. I don't know why I stood up. Why I grabbed the handrail and stepped back onto the platform. It wasn't according to plan. I wasn't planning on going back. I wasn't going to walk past the people who pretended I didn't exist again. But I went. We walked in silence. Matt paced beside me. as if afraid I'd change my mind at any moment. In the car, he opened the door for me. No pathos, no look how important you are now. Just respect. The very respect I'd been looking for years. The coordinator met us at the front door. The same one who crossed out my name as if I were a comma in someone else's sentence. Ms. Hayes. She mumbled. Don't try. I'll be properly introduced today, Matt said. Inside, the hall was full. People in uniform, relatives, lights, music. Everyone's heads turned as we walked in. There was everything on their faces. Surprise, tension, calculation. And I just stood there, as if I had walked into a house where I once lived. But now everything had been rearranged and no one was waiting for you. Matt walked on stage. Took the microphone. I had a lot of formal words to say today. Acknowledgements. Numbers. And regalia. But before I do, I want to say one thing. I want to admit it. In front of everyone. The room froze. 30 years of service is not just my story. It's the story of a family. And one woman in particular. My sister. Sophia Hayes. A whisper. Someone dropped a fork. She's not on stage. But she was there for me when I was scared. She kept me on course when I lost it. And if anyone here tonight deserves the word honor, it's her. Because she stood in the shadows, and didn't ask for the light. And he was silent for a second. I asked for her forgiveness, and respect, and finally recognition. He raised his glass. Welcome, Admiral Hayes. The room was silent. And then someone applauded. One. A second. Then the whole room. I was standing in the aisle, and at that moment I realized I was seen. Not as someone uncomfortable, but as me. Full. Alive. Real. After the speech, it was like a movie without sound. People came up, shook hands, said, "Are you the sister? We didn't know, sorry." That was strong. But it all went unheard. Because the important stuff was still to come. I went out onto the veranda to catch my breath. There by the column stood she. Mother. Staring into the darkness, as if she thought that if she didn't look at me, she wouldn't have to talk. "I didn't think you'd come back," she said without turning around. "I didn't think you'd even notice I was here." She turned around. A face without a mask. No pearls. Just a tired woman. It was beautiful. What Matt had said. It was honest. And for our family it was rare. She lowered her eyes. "I was afraid that you'd demand something again. Confession. A place. I don't demand. I take. I get what's mine. Not from you. My own." My father came up behind me. Slowly. With the same cane. But this time he didn't look away. "I saw you standing in the aisle. You look like a person. Someone who'd forgotten to be invited?" He nodded. "I was wrong. No. You both were. Mom and you. But now it's your shadow. Not mine." They were silent. And I didn't wait for more words. Because sometimes it's more important what isn't said. The main thing is that I'm not afraid of them anymore. I left the banquet first. No looking back. No drama. Just a feeling that I am more than their silence. I'm a person with a voice. And it had a voice. At the hotel, I took off my shoes and looked at my reflection. Not broken. Not angry. Not forgotten. But grown up. Whole. Free. On the way to the airport, I looked out the window as if I were seeing the city for the first time. Everything was familiar, the streets, the signs, even the smell after the rain. But I drove like a person who no longer had any unspoken ifs. All the dots had been dotted. All wounds opened and washed. Nothing more to hide. As I took off, I looked down and thought, everything I was trying to prove wasn't for them. It was for me. I'm still that girl with the map in my hand. Only now I'm in charge. Not under command. Not under orders. On my own. A few days later I was home. In my apartment among my books, my photos. My grandfather's map now hung on my wall. I didn't give it to my brother. Because I realized that memory is not a gift. It's a responsibility. If they don't appreciate it, I'll keep it with me. With pride. I made tea. I sat by the window. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was breathing straight. No expectations. No resentment. My family is not a last name. It's not a shared photo. It's a choice. And I chose to be me. Even if I had to walk through silence to do it. When someone asks me one day, "What did you get out of that story?" I'll say simply, I stopped waiting for invitations to come into my life, and let them still whisper who I am. Why? I know the answer. I'm the one who came back. Not to them, but to myself. At home, going through a drawer of papers, I found an envelope, yellowed, with a handwritten note. Sophia, only open when you feel you're alone. I opened the envelope. Inside was a letter. A real one. Grandfather's handwriting, crisp, angular. Dear Sophie, if you're reading this, it means you're stronger than you think. Being on the sidelines isn't always weakness. Sometimes it's courage. If your family ever turns their backs, don't doubt yourself. Because it's not the blood of those who fear, but those who lead that runs through you. Even if you're alone, you are Hayes. And you're my Admiral. I sat with that letter like he was there again. Quietly. Confidently. No noise. And now everything was falling into place. I had been called an Admiral out loud. But Grandpa had already done it long before anyone else. I smiled. And I said, "Acknowledged, Grandfather. I'll set my own course." And then I put the letter next to the map. And I left the room. Light. With a straight back. Because now I wasn't walking away from them. I was walking towards me. Sometimes to be yourself, you have to lose the people who always told you who you should be. Sometimes you have to walk out of a room you haven't been in a long time and close the door. Not with anger. With gratitude. For learning to stand on your own. From this day forward, I don't wait for words. I don't wait for gestures. I just walk on. In silence. But with a flag I hold high. 'Cause damn it, I came home. I didn't just come home. I showed up for real.